Hello guys and welcome back to episode 2 of our Glory Hunter Career Mode Challenge here on FC25. We are returning today with episode 2 and of course that means heading into season 2 of the challenge after a successful first episode with Arsenal where, spoiler alert, we managed to win the Premier League and the FA Cup in our first season of the challenge. In the last episode I was torn between staying at Arsenal, running it back and going hard in on the Champions League for this second season, but after a few months of being unemployed after leaving the club on a high, winning that Premier League and FA Cup double, I have been given the opportunity to join a struggling Napoli side who find themselves 8th in the table after a slow start after 12 fixtures. 5 wins, 2 draws and 5 defeats on the board, leaving us 17 points behind current league leaders Inter Milan. Means that we have a huge uphill task if we're to get back into the title race this season, which means that this stint with Napoli is probably going to be a bit of a longer project. They are in the Champions League after finishing 4th last year, so that is a competition that we can go after, and of course there is still the Coppa Italia to come later on in the campaign as well. But it's a decent squad that we've got. Some of the real life transfers have been made. Obviously I did them manually before the save started, but also we're in the middle of November, we're close to that January window, and I do definitely want to make some adjustments to the team. It's a good squad that we've got so far and I do like the look of the starting 11, but after a slow start we've got some real catching up to do. So what I will say about this squad is it is absolutely huge. We've got so many players on the books. There are a few players here who have moved on in real life, so I will probably look to get rid of them in the January window, but this isn't going to be a short-term period of the save here at Napoli. This is probably going to be a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons before we look to move on, because we've got some serious work to be done in this Napoli squad. I think what I am going to do is I will sim through to January, as that's the first point where we can really do anything. You will have seen there we've got 72 million in the budget. We've got a lot of work to do in the Serie A, of course. We've got the Coppa Italia, which I believe will start around January time. And also in the Champions League phase, we're unlikely to finish in the top 8. So it looks as if we will be heading into the playoff. But again, I don't think I'm really going to focus on the Champions League in this first season. That might be a season 2, season 3 with Napoli sort of objective. I think for this first year, I'm going to focus mainly on trying to get back into the title race and seeing if we can get our hands on that Coppa Italia. So let's sim through to January and see how the squad is doing. Alright then guys, here we are at the 1st of January, and it seems as if we had a bit of a mixed bag of results in the sim. I think we might be struggling in the Champions League, but as for the league campaign, I mean, Inter Milan are just absolutely flying away with it at the top, still 16 points clear of us down in 6th place, but we've got ourselves back in the race for Champions League and European football. I don't actually mind if we finish lower than the top 4 and head into either the Europa League or the Conference League, because it gives us a very good chance to win one of those competitions next season. And in the Champions League we are currently 19th, so is it the top 24 that go through? I think it's the top 24, but we have to play Liverpool and Barcelona in our final 2 games, so there is a chance that we end up not qualifying for the playoff round, which is going to be very interesting, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So we've got around 72 million in the budget, but if you look at this team, as I say, it is massively inflated, and I do not want a squad of this big. And we've had more players join. We've had Hansen, who's a young fullback, and Jared Bowen as well. There are a few players here that I will probably look to sell. Simeone's left the club in real life. Raspadori is heading to Atletico Madrid. Of course, Victor Osimhen, difficult one. He has left in real life. I do like to keep things realistic. I think the connection between Osimhen and the club is completely broken. So For realism's sake, I might look to get rid of him. Cayuste's gone back to Ipswich in real life, so there definitely are some players that will be leaving the club. As for the starting 11, I don't think there's too many changes that I'm going to make, but I think what I'll do is I will sim through most of January, bring in most of my signings, and then we will do a bit of a run through in the transfer hub to show you who's left the club and who I've brought in, rather than doing it one by one, because we will be here for hours otherwise. So I'm going to crack on with our transfers. I've got a few names already in mind, players that have joined the club in real life or have been rumoured to join the club. So I will see you in a moment to round up our transfer business. Alrighty then, guys, we have made it through pretty much all of January, so the transfers will be blanked out, but I'm going to go through all the outgoings and all the incomings that have gone on in this January window. So starting with 3 players who have gone out on loan, they are Antonio Vergara, who's gone to Cagliari, I believe, for 2 years. The young fullback Sabil Hassan, who came in January, has gone on loan to Monza. And then we've also got another young Italian defender who's gone on loan to Austria again, I think for 2 years. Then we've got a few players leaving for pretty small transfer fees. So Pascal Mazzocchi heads to Genoa for just 2.2 million. Alessio Zerbin leaves to Trabzonspor for 2.4 million. The centre forward Walid Chedira heads to Spain to join up with Valencia for 3.2 million. Spanish centre-back Rafa Marin heads to the Premier League to join up with Burnley for 5.2 million. And Gio Simeone, who has gone to Torino in real life, I decided to sell him to keep the save realistic. Couldn't get him to Torino or any other Italian club, so he joins Galatasaray for 6.5 million. Right then, on to a few sales that brought in a few more quid. We've got Cyril Ngonge heading to Atalanta. I couldn't see him getting much game time, so decided to cash in, staying in Italy as he heads to Bergamo for £10 million. We then have Jens Lyle Cayuste, who I actually would have kept, as I really enjoyed using him in our saving Ipswich save that we did earlier on in the game cycle, but he has gone back to Ipswich on loan in real life, so I decided to cash in as it is a loan to buy option. So he has gone back to England, couldn't get him to Ipswich, but he will join Bournemouth for 11.5 million. Then next up, also heading to Atalanta for £15 million, joining Cyril Ngonge is Amir Rahmani. Didn't really see him getting much football. We are massively overloaded at centre-back, and the Kosovan, now at 31 years of age, was just not going to get much football. I believe he's been at Napoli for a good few years now, but with the signings of Bukema and Buongiorno, we've got Mancini, Emre Can, I didn't really see him getting much football, so decided to cash in the January window as he also heads to Atalanta. And finally, in what is our biggest outgoing of the window, again, I said I wanted to keep things as realistic as I could, and so I have decided to get rid of Victor Osimhen. Of course, he's gone to Galatasaray in real life. There was very little chance of me getting him there in the save, so he has joined Chelsea on a 6-month loan with a £115 million buy option. So yeah, he was doing really well for us in the Sims. I believe he was the top scorer in the Serie A, but as I said earlier, the tie between Osimhen and Napoli is just completely broken. And if you're new to the channel, you'll know that I like to do things as realistically as I can. So Victor Osimhen is going to be heading to Chelsea at least for the next 6 months. Now, in terms of our incoming business, I haven't spent every penny that we've got, and again, I wanted to keep things as realistic as I can. So our first signing was a player that has been heavily linked to Napoli in real life. By the time you're seeing this, he may be a Napoli player, and that is the man that we used in our most recent career mode save, Juanlu Sanchez, who joins for 18.5 million. He'd actually moved on to Fiorentina in the save from Sevilla, so staying in Italy. But for 18.5 million, it's around about the same fee that's being touted in real life. So yeah, Juanlu Sanchez, the Spaniard, becomes our first signing of the January window. Now, our second signing is another player who has been linked with a move to Napoli. Not quite as much as the fullback Juanlu Sanchez, but it is Englishman Raheem Sterling, who will join the club from Chelsea for £8 million. Of course, Chelsea having a bit of a fire sale again this summer, and there have been talks of both Raheem Sterling and potentially Jack Grealish heading to Naples. So I decided to pick up the Englishman for £8 million. 31 years of age now and 78 overall. He's not going to be getting any better, but for squad depth and for realism, I decided to bring the Englishman in. And with Victor Osimhen leaving, we were a little bit short up front. We, of course, still have Romelu Lukaku, but another player that has been linked with a move away from their team. After a big signing of Benjamin Sesko, Rasmus Højlund has been heavily linked with a move away from Manchester United in the recent days at the time of recording. So he of course joined the Manchester club from the Serie A from Atalanta. I decided to bring him back to Italy, where there have been links he could be returning. So for £30 million, I decided that Rasmus Højlund would be our long-term replacement up top. He's a bit of a confidence player and he needs a bit of an arm around his shoulder, but I think I can get the best out of Rasmus Højlund. Now, our penultimate signing is another player that has been heavily linked with a move to Napoli in real life. I believe on the day of recording, it is Friday the 8th of August. We have had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano for this deal, and that is going to be Miguel Gutierrez, the Spanish left back. In the save, he had moved on to PSG, and you'll see that the transfer fee is £0, and you might be thinking, what the hell has happened there? Well, I actually conducted a swap deal for Miguel Gutierrez. Now, financially, this deal doesn't really make much sense, but in terms of realism, this just stood out for me. So Nuno Mendes has actually returned to Paris Saint-Germain in a straight swap deal for Miguel Gutierrez. I don't really see Nuno Mendes leaving PSG anytime soon, especially not to Napoli. And with Miguel Gutierrez being announced as a Napoli player on the day of recording, I decided that this made sense for realism. As I say, maybe not financially, but realistically, to bring Miguel Gutierrez to the club whilst also sending Nuno Mendes back to PSG. So Miguel Gutierrez is in as our new left back. Now, my final signing is a player that I wanted to bring in. We were looking a little bit short in midfield and I wanted some cover, someone who's got energy, can get forward, can get backwards and do a little bit of everything. And I know that the Italian clubs quite often do business within the league. So I decided to go for Bologna's Italian midfielder Giovanni Fabian, as he will join the club for £20 million. Again, not the flashiest of signings, but just 23 years of age, lots and lots of room to grow. I like the stats on him and I think he will be a really good squad player. Of course, we've got some great quality in midfield with the likes of Lewis Ferguson, McTominay, and now of course Kevin De Bruyne. But I wanted someone younger who can fill in any of those midfield positions and, as I say, can get forward and get backwards and do the defensive work, and I decided that Giovanni is my man. In the league, we find ourselves currently sat in 6th place. Again, it's all pretty tight in the hunt for European football, and we have actually closed the gap to Inter Milan at the top to just 11 points. In the Coppa Italia, we've been given a nice draw in the last 16 at home to Serie B side Modena, and in the Champions League, we did manage to qualify for the playoffs after a win against Liverpool and a loss to Barcelona on match day 8. But that meant we finished in 19th place and we will take on Sporting Lisbon in the playoffs. So what we will do, I think, is just start simming through again, and I will decide what games I'm going to play. I think for the time being, I'm probably going to sim until the end of February and then take a bit of a rain check when we get to March as we head towards the later stages of the season. Alright then guys, we've made it to the beginning of February. I feel like the pace of today's episode has been a little bit slower, but we're going to start picking it up now. And after a 1-1 draw with Inter Milan in the league, you can see that we are up to 5th, but now 11 points behind the league leaders. So it's looking very, very unlikely that we will catch them in the race for the title. But as long as we get into some sort of European competition next year, I'm not too fussed. And what I'm going to do is actually sim the first round of the Coppa Italia. Taking on Modena, it should be a comfortable win with our starting lineup. And well, it's not that comfortable, as Miguel Gutierrez gets a debut goal and Kevin De Bruyne is the match winner. But that is why simming is so risky, especially in cup football. If we'd ended up losing that, we would have had practically nothing to play for all season long except the Champions League and a very slim chance at the league. So what I'm going to do is sim through to the playoffs against Sporting. We'll do the home and away legs live together, and then as you can see, we've been drawn against Fiorentina in the quarterfinals of the cup, where it's pretty much all of the top 8 teams in Italy, as you would expect. So we're going to heavily focus on the Coppa Italia and hope that we can get through in the Champions League as well. So I'll see you in a moment for that first leg. Well, we actually dropped more points on the weekend after a 2-2 draw with Parma, but I'm hoping we get a good first leg victory here, and we do by 2-1. So we will have the lead heading to Portugal for that second leg in what was quite an even first half. Well, we just about got the win against Torino in between these two Champions League fixtures, but the gap is now 4 points to Fiorentina in 4th as we're sat in a Europa League spot. But we'll jump into the sim against Sporting for this second leg. Hope that we can make it through. And oh my goodness, what a game as we win it 11-10 on the shootout. Well, just a quick overview of the standings. We're now 13 points behind league leaders Inter. I don't think we are catching them, but 5 points behind Fiorentina, but with a game in hand. But it's more below us that I'm worried about. 4 points separates 5 teams in the hunt for European football. So, yeah, I don't mind if it's Europa League or Conference League come the end of the season, but as long as we are in some sort of European competition or even the Champions League. And speaking of, in the quarterfinals, we are going to be taking on, sorry, it's not the quarterfinals, it is the last 16, and it will be English opposition in Aston Villa, who had a really good season last year. Of course, season 1 we were managing Arsenal, and Aston Villa, we defeated them in the FA Cup final, and I think they finished 3rd or 4th in the end. So that is going to be a really tough tie. What we'll do, guys, is we will jump into the Coppa Italia quarter-final, and it will be our first played game of the episode, as I'm really going to focus on this competition. We've got 3 games to win to get our hands on the trophy: quarter-final, semi-final, and of course then the final. But the teams left in this competition mean that every game is going to be very tough. We've also got a league fixture in between as we travel to Cremonense, so I will put the result on screen as we head into this fixture. But it is the Coppa Italia quarter-final against Fiorentina. Forza Napoli. I'm expecting a tough and frustrating game. It might be one that we have to sort of grind out the victory if we can find a way through this back 5, as De Bruyne gets half a yard, looks for Højlund, good save, and oh, it should be 1-0 on the rebound. Miguel Gutierrez, the new man, maybe had a bit more time than he thought, but that is a great opportunity for us to take the lead. Bowen drifting in off that right-hand side, finds Rasmus. Bowen again, has De Bruyne with him, lovely move, Højlund in the middle! And there is our goal, and it's Rasmus Højlund who gets it. And I said he's the kind of player who needs an arm round the shoulder, and that's what I'm giving him here at Napoli. I've told him that he's going to be the main man. I've got full faith in him, and as 2 former Manchester players, De Bruyne of City into Rasmus of United, fire the ball past David De Gea, another former United man, and Napoli take the lead here in the quarterfinals of the Coppa Italia. Oh, Gutierrez does really well. We've been the better team out there today. We just needed that goal. And now Højlund back to Miguel Gutierrez, who has license to get forward. Gutierrez strikes it off the woodwork as Fiorentina just on the ropes a little bit and holding on as Napoli go in the hunt of that second goal. So close from the Spaniard, but we are all over them at the moment as McTominay finds Bowen. Lovely feet. There's Rasmus for 2. Big save by De Gea again. Ferguson, who's been quiet today, slides the ball forward to Lang in between centre-back and full-back. And Lang has it again. Højlund's in the middle. Can he pick him out? Rasmus for 2. It's been coming. And finally we get our goal. He's just about to come off as Lukaku is waiting on the side of the pitch. But Rasmus Højlund will come off with a second goal in the bag that will surely now send us through to the final 4 of the Coppa Italia. And yet there is the whistle as Napoli do progress through to the final 4 of the Coppa Italia. We deserved it as well. It took us a little while to get that breakthrough, but once we got it, we were pushing for that second goal and we found it, as Fiorentina did not have an answer for us. Rasmus Højlund with both goals as the January signing starting to settle in back in Italy, as that is exactly what we needed as we look to get our hands on our 3rd trophy of the save. Let's go and find out who it's going to be in the semi-finals. Well guys, as we get back to the menu before this clash against Hellas Verona, let's find out who it is going to be in the semis. It's Juventus. Okay, well I didn't want to face Inter Milan, so I can't really complain. Lazio knocking out AC Milan and Juventus knocking out Atalanta. Well, that is going to be a tough clash, but they, like ourselves, struggled a lot to kick off the campaign. And like ourselves, they have sort of fought their way back into contention for European football next campaign. I think when we took over Napoli, they were 14th in the league. So, yeah, they've been on a really good run, and that is going to be a tough fixture in the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia. Let's check the calendar and see when that game falls. It's actually not for a little while, and it's a 2-legged affair. Okay, I didn't actually comprehend that. What we'll do is we will sim the 2 Champions League last 16 against Aston Villa like we did in the last round for Sporting, but we'll just get through them very quickly on the sim before we head to that Coppa Italia semi-final 1st and 2nd leg. So I'll see you in just a moment for Villa at home. Well, I have a feeling we're going to struggle in this 2-legged affair against Villa. They've got a really strong squad, and yeah, it's a 2-0 defeat in the home fixture. That is that's a big deficit to turn around heading to England for the 2nd leg. Right, time for the 2nd leg. But as I said last season when we were in the Champions League with Arsenal, I'm not too worried about getting this competition done early because we're going to have plenty of chances to get the European trophies. Practically every season we compete in, we're probably going to have a chance in Europe. But it is Villa heading through to the quarter-finals. Morgan Rogers put them a goal up before David Neres scored a late consolation. But that is going to do it for our run in the Champions League. Like in the previous episode with Arsenal, we will be exiting the competition pretty early on. So that means we've practically got to put all of our eggs in the Coppa Italia basket. It's very unlikely that we're now going to catch Inter Milan at the top of the table, with us being 14 points behind with 10 to play. So it's practically all on this Coppa Italia. As I've mentioned, it's unlikely that we're going to make up the ground in the league, so it's pretty pointless playing those games out of the Champions League now as well. So we may as well just focus solely on this competition. Obviously, there's been quite a big clear out in the transfer market, so that will make up a lot of the episode. But let's jump into this first leg. We are at home, as Juventus will come to take us on in Naples for the first leg as we look to take an aggregate lead to the Allianz Stadium in a couple of weeks' time. Forza Napoli. Well, here we go for this first leg, and I guess the good thing about this is the whole time I've been going on about cup football, you only get one chance. Well, here today, we actually have a second chance as there is a second leg to come, but I'd love a positive result to take back to Oh, Rasmus nearly messed that up as I wasn't expecting it to come to him. New kit number as well. I've changed some of the numbers. I know realistically you wouldn't be able to do it mid-season, but I forgot for our first game, so we're really counting this as our first game with the new numbers. But what a start as Rasmus Højlund rolls in from within the goal line. Literally couldn't miss, although he took quite a few touches away from that goal. But it's his third goal in the competition as we look to take a positive result back to Turin for the second leg. And this is exactly what I wanted in the opening 10 minutes. What a start. Oh, Bowen, lovely control on the chest. And he finds De Bruyne, who just loves picking up these positions. Rasmus is the onside. Rasmus off the woodwork as the flag did stay down. Must have been tight. And he's denied by the frame of the goal as McTominay's touch is heavy. Well, we're underway for the second 45, and so far we've been pretty comfortable as De Bruyne gives the ball away, but he's looked dangerous getting on the ball and trying to feed Rasmus Højlund, who looks in the mood to score more goals. But it's defensively we've looked really solid, but that's nice by Koopmeiners, who gets Juventus back on level terms. Lovely finish past Milinkovic-Savic, and it's the first time they've really threatened our goal, and the Dutchman Koopmeiners has them back on level terms. Terrible start to the second half. Yeah, a bit of a setback that. Now let's see what we are really made of. As McTominay fires the ball into Bowen. He's got Højlund with him on the weaker right foot, but it does not matter. What a strike as Rasmus Højlund. I said he's a confidence player, and he has started his spell in Naples looking as confident as ever. Drills the ball into that top corner on the weaker right foot as Jarrod Bowen just found a little pocket of space. And Rasmus Højlund with his fourth goal of the Coppa Italia campaign gets us back in front as we look to take that aggregate lead back to Turin. Fantastic strike by Højlund. It's Jonathan David, the new Juventus man, swings the cross in. Sanchez has to get there and does. Ferguson can't get there, and Gutierrez does really well, helping out his teammate. And now De Bruyne can bring it forward, and this is where he is so deadly. Slips it forward to Rasmus Højlund. Lovely skill onto the left peg and denied, as Lang will settle for the corner. Lovely counter-attack from Napoli, and it will be played short to Sanchez. Now De Bruyne, who we know can whip them in. McTominay at the back post and cleared by Juventus. Well, it's a good foul to make by Bukema. This first leg is still massively in the balance, and with 20 to play, both sides are looking for more goals as we narrowly lead by a goal to nil. Well, I think that is going to do it here in Naples as, oh, Bowen was running onto that, but it's not going to matter. We will take a narrow one-goal aggregate lead to Turin for the second leg, and I'm sure that is going to be an absolute cracker. It was end to end, and it was even here, and I'd say both teams had spells where they were on top, but Rasmus Højlund really stole the show as he looked a real handful for those Juventus defenders. Well, we will jump into the second leg. I will put the results of our league fixtures in between these two Coppa Italia semi-finals on screen as we sim through. But to be honest, as I've mentioned, the league is not my biggest priority at the moment. As long as we get qualified for some form of European football, I'm not too fussed. But let's just head into that second leg where we're looking to make it to our second cup final of the save. Forza Napoli. Yeah, off and underway for the second leg, and the atmosphere is absolutely electric here at the Allianz Stadium. But as that's played into Rasmus Højlund, lovely control. Højlund is denied, and De Bruyne will pick up the loose ball, hangs it up at the back post, and Juventus will clear. Well, that will have silenced those home fans slightly as Napoli coming out on the front foot. Oh, that's a nice ball into Adzic, and now Johnny David, and he's been pulled back there, and he might be in trouble here. It's just a yellow for Bukema, who, like in the first leg, picks up a yellow for dragging down his man. Jonathan David lays the ball off and gives it straight to Ferguson. And now break could be on. Ferguson lifts it for Lang. Oh, this is a terrible goal for Juve to concede as Noah Lang races away and does extend our lead to 2. And the Juventus crowd will be absolutely fuming at that. As well, there's not many of them in the crowd, but a foul by Bukema, which could have been seen as a red with Jonathan David spinning in behind. Only a yellow given, and from the free kick, Juve give the ball away, Napoli break, and Noah Lang doubles our advantage to give us a 2-goal cushion. That is a terrible goal for Juve to concede, and might be the one that sends Napoli to the final. Well, it is by no means over as Adzic runs through, and does get a goal back straight from kickoff. Well, I think maybe Milinkovic-Savic should have done slightly better with that. It was a decent strike, but it wasn't absolutely rifled home. But as our defence parts like the blue sea, maybe I'm being harsh on Milinkovic-Savic. It is pretty far in the corner, but Juventus basically cancel out that goal straight away. Well, we're 10 minutes into the second period here, and the game has just quietened down slightly as Højlund does well, finds Lang. And there's a runner into the middle. It's McTominay. Oh, it's wide. It's a great chance by the box-crashing Scott McTominay. Bowen away from Thuram. Still Jared Bowen. And still Jared Bowen. Oh, what a brilliant goal by the Englishman. As he cuts in off that right-hand side and drills in an absolute rocket to silence those very few Juventus fans who just don't seem to be in their seats at all this game. Brilliant strength as he cuts in onto that stronger left foot and running away from goal, drills it into that far corner, and that now should be Napoli in the final. I'm not really too sure what to say about that. What on earth is that, man? Well, I am just going to brush over that last Jonathan David goal as if it didn't happen, because that was utterly ridiculous, as I was just trying to sort of see out the remainder of the game. But it's not going to make a difference in the end. It does mean that we progressed by just a single goal, but yeah, we were pretty comfortable after Jared Bowen wrapped it up with that goal with 15 to play. So it will be Napoli reaching the final of the Coppa Italia. For myself, it is 2 finals in 2 years with 2 different clubs, as we look to add our 3rd trophy to that trophy room. Let's go and find out who it is going to be in the final. Well, let's find out who it is going to be, as it is getting very, very tight in the race for European football in the Serie A. But in the Coppa Italia final, Napoli will be taking on, it is going to be Inter Milan. I thought it might be, as they defeated Lazio by 4-0 on aggregate. Well, our defence has been very, very leaky since we took over, but we will be hoping to keep Lautaro Martinez and co quiet in that cup final. It is going to come a few days before or a few games, sorry, before the end of the season. So what we will do is we will head into the cup final now. We've got 3 games to sim before we get there, and then we will sim through the final 2, where there's probably going to be very little to play for as we look to wrap up European football for next season. So it is Inter Milan in the Coppa Italia final, as we look to keep our 100% record going in cup finals and make it 3 trophies in the trophy room. Forza Napoli. Here we go then. I'd say we are probably underdogs for this final, as Thuram is denied by Milinkovic-Savic early on. I'd say we are definitely underdogs, with Inter looking as if they're going to be champions of Italy. But we've been in a really good run since I took over, and I'm hoping that we might be able to pull off a bit of an upset, as Højlund rolls through McTominay. Frantic start here, and McTominay drills in the opening goal. I believe he is our top goal scorer in all competitions this season. After the departure of Victor Osimhen in January, McTominay has stepped up. That's a dangerous ball. Barella Down the right-hand side, Buongiorno comes across. Nicely worked. Look at the space. DiMarco is denied once again by Milinkovic-Savic with another big save in this opening half hour. And now Ferguson back to Gutierrez. Lang's on the move, but instead it will find Højlund. And McTominay again. McTominay is denied as both sides are just going all out to try and get the next goal in this game. Finds Lautaro Martinez. And now Benjamin Pavard with Barella in support. Lautaro again dispossessed, and now we can break with Jared Bowen. Not too many options ahead of him, but De Bruyne to his right. And De Bruyne uses the run as a decoy. Kevin De Bruyne! Oh, that is so unlucky from the Belgian. Well, Inter really pushing now as Phil Foden's on, off the bench, finds Thuram. Oh, what a save, Milinkovic-Savic, but it's turned in on the rebound as Marcus Thuram, the Frenchman, gets into Milan back level, was denied in the opening stages by Milinkovic-Savic, who made a brilliant stop there to deny him, but didn't have much help on the rebound as the Frenchman drills in the equalising goal. Half an hour to play, and it is all to play for. Oh, given away by McTominay, and look at the space opening up. Lautaro to Thuram, big save, and still it's loose, and McTominay in the way as our defending's just getting a little bit frantic back there. But now we will break with Bowen. And Højlund finds De Bruyne. And that'll come for Ferguson. And it's great defending once again, this time down the other end. Both sides once again pushing for the winning goal here in the cup final. Milinkovic-Savic looks to ping that out to Noah Lang. What a ball that is, as he spotted the gap. And still Noah has it. Supported by Gutierrez. And now Jared Bowen denied by Providel. And it's a big stop as well, as the former Lazio man denies the Englishman what would have surely been a winning goal. 10 to play. I still think somebody wins this in the 90, and it could be Inter. As Foden comes forward, looks for Lautaro, flag stays down, Lautaro into the area, cross comes in, De Bruyne doesn't do enough, Lautaro, big save, as the flag goes up regardless. What a cracking cup final, and there's still 5 minutes to find a winner. Well guys, I think that is going to do it. And we will be heading for extra time. It's been a cracking game. And I'm so glad when we get a final that's really exciting, because the last thing you want is a really dull game in a cup final. But this has been absolutely fantastic. Both sides going all out for the win and cannot be separated after 90 as we head to extra time and potentially a penalty shootout. Thuram up to Martinez, and Thuram again, through the gap, does really well. Thuram denied, and thankfully the ref didn't pull it back for a foul on the Frenchman by Miguel Gutierrez, who slid in and tried to make a block and did catch the Frenchman. Big save by the Serbian Milinkovic-Savic, who has kept us in the game at times. And then he's dropped an absolute clanger. Oh, Milinkovic-Savic, my guy. Oh, what have you done? It was a risk. It was a risk going for him in the cup final. I was tempted to chuck Meret in, who is obviously our number one, but I kept faith in the Serb. And he's just made a brilliant stop to deny Thuram, and then seconds later, he's dropped an absolute clanger. Bastoni, wearing the armband, climbs highest, heads it down, and it goes straight through the Serb. Neres back to Fabian, lovely football. Lukaku finds Neres, who's denied by Providel. Here's Zanoli and Fabian. Neres again onto that left peg. Neres denied by Providel for the second time in extra time. And this is it. Neres waits for Fabian. Fabian into the middle, and Bastoni is there and will clear for Inter Milan, who are champions of the Coppa Italia, and they're going to be champions of the Serie A as well. It's been a dominant year from Inter Milan, who flew out of the blocks, and despite going a goal down in the cup final, will still claim the trophy. And for Napoli, it is heartbreak. It's been a disappointing season. They started off poorly under Antonio Conte, and after a few months of the season decided to give him the sack and brought me in to try and regain some clarity at the club. We do look as if we will have secured some form of European football for next year, but it is going to be a trophyless campaign for Napoli, as Lautaro Martinez will lift the Coppa Italia. It's not Lautaro, it's going to be Bastoni. It is Lautaro, the skipper in real life, but the goal scorer, the winning goal scorer, Alessandro Bastoni, to lift the Coppa Italia for Inter Milan, as Napoli are left heartbroken in the cup final. What a heartbreaking way to lose the cup final. We were leading in the opening moments, but ended up being pegged back and losing it in extra time. And you've got to spare a thought for Milinkovic-Savic, who made a bit of a howler for the winning goal. But we'll sim through our final two games in the Serie A. We look as if we will either be heading into the Europa League or the Conference League, depending on how our final two games go. Well, guys, we have massively tanked it towards the end of this season. So many draws in the league, and I have a feeling we may have dropped to 6th on the final day. If Juventus have won, then I think it means we drop to 6th. And yeah, it's confirmed. We will be playing in the Conference League next season. Well, I thought it was going to be the Europa League. I don't mind it, to be fair. Normally, I'd be really gutted about that, but I don't mind it because we will be massive, massive favourites to go all the way in that competition. So, to close out, it is Inter Milan winning the Serie A by 3 points over AC Milan in second, Roma in third, and Fiorentina in fourth. Juventus, who, like ourselves, started really poor and went on a good run towards the end of the season, head into the Europa League. And as I say, it will be ourselves heading into the Conference League, with Bologna, Como, Lecce and Atalanta wrapping up the top half. As for the relegated sides this year, it is going to be Cremonense, Venezia and Palermo heading down to the Serie B. As for the Coppa Italia, as we know, it was Inter Milan who won it, and that's so gutting, man, because it means we might be at Napoli for another 2, maybe even 3 years. If we'd won this competition, we could have focused solely on the league and the Conference League next season, whereas now I think we're going to have to put our eggs in all 3 baskets, otherwise we're going to be in Italy for a long time. And as for the European competitions, we will be heading into the Conference League next season, but to be honest, I think we're probably likely to be able to sim until the quarters or maybe even the semi-finals, depending on who we face. And yeah, we will be, of course, aiming to get our hands on that trophy this year. But it is Tottenham Hotspur winning it in the save this season, beating Valencia in the final by 3-1. As for the Europa League, well, I thought we'd be heading into this competition, but if you look at the teams in it, it's a tough competition to win. So I'm not too fussed that we can focus on the Conference League next year instead of playing in a tougher European competition in the Europa League. But it was a Borussia Dortmund-Marseille final where the Germans came out on top, winning by 3-1 to win Europe's silver competition this year. And as for the Champions League, well, you're not going to believe this, but after we were knocked out in the last 16, Aston Villa went on to beat AS Monaco in the quarterfinals. In the semis, they beat PSG in what was a fantastic run to the final. But it's our former team. If we'd stayed at Arsenal, potentially we would have had a Champions League in the trophy cabinet, but we decided to leave at the end of the campaign. I was umming and ahhing between staying, but I decided that we'd have more chances to win this competition later on in the save. So jumped ship and joined Napoli in November, and it is the Gunners who get their hands on the Champions League trophy. That's really annoying. Well, as for the other leagues, I will just quickly show the top 8 in each division, because we know we're probably going to be staying in Napoli for next season. Unless, of course, I don't have a job next season. There is an opportunity that I may get sacked. But as for the other leagues, you will have seen it is PSG winning the French league this year after losing out last year in a shock twist to Monaco. The Bundesliga was won by Bayern Munich, Harry Kane getting another Bundesliga trophy in his cabinet. La Liga was won by Real Madrid, and the Premier League this year was won by Tottenham Hotspur, a league and European double, as they pit North London rivals Arsenal to the title by a single point in a really, really tightly contested Premier League title race. I always say take these tables with a pinch of salt, because you don't know how up to date they really are, which should be something that's fixed in FC 26 going off the deep dive, which is going to be hopefully great to see. But as for the individual player stats this year, Lautaro Martinez winning the Golden Boot with 21 goals. I don't think we had anyone in the top 25, which is a real issue considering we want to be challenging for titles next year. Yeah, nobody in the top 25. And as for assists, it was Charles de Catalara winning it with Atalanta. De Bruyne did well with 8 assists, and Noah Lang also had 7, who did well in the Sims. But yeah, I think going forward next year, we've got to look at potentially some attacking options, as again, defensively, it was no good either, as Meret with just 4 clean sheets in 37 appearances in the Serie A. We've got a big summer transfer window ahead of us. And as we take a look at the squad hub, I'll show you these statistics in a moment, but in terms of the squad, I mean, we've not got that real star quality like we did at Arsenal. Osimhen is our highest rated player, and he's out on loan and has that buy option, so will probably be leaving in the summer. De Bruyne is now 34 years of age. We've got Gutierrez at 85, Meret at 84, Buongiorno at 84, but beyond that, you're looking at sort of low 80 rated players, and I don't think that is good enough to win a league title. If we're going to do so here with Napoli, this might be a long sort of 2 or 3 year project with the club, because I don't think we've got the players here at the moment to win anything. McTominay was our top goal scorer with 15 goals and 7 assists. Noah Lang also had 13 in what was quite a good season. And to be fair, since joining the club in January, Rasmus Højlund did have a pretty good goal scoring return with 12 goals in 23 appearances. And as for the assists, again, De Bruyne and Noah Lang leading the way. McTominay with 7, and Gutierrez again did really well since joining in January with 4 assists. But I do worry about a real lack of quality in this side and how we're going to cope next year. Victor Osimhen scored loads of goals before he was shipped out. Romelu Lukaku is now 33 years of age. Is Rasmus Højlund the answer to our goal scoring problems? I'm not so sure, but it's going to be interesting to see what we do in the summer transfer window, because I think we've got a lot of work that needs to be done with this Napoli squad if we are to transform it into a trophy winning side next year. It's not quite been the season we were after, and our first trophyless season of the save does come to an end. But thankfully, after a really successful first year, we do have a couple of seasons kind of banked up, so it's not the end of the world, and we are looking at a slightly sort of mid-term project here with Napoli. So the likelihood is we'll be back in the next episode to continue with Napoli, unless, of course, we do lose our job over the summer. But that will do it for today's episode, guys. Not quite how I wanted to wrap it up with that loss in the Coppa Italia final, but we'll be back in the next episode for another season with Napoli, where we look to get our hands on some silverware. I'll catch you for the next episode very soon, guys. Take care and peace.